We're really excited you're here. Thank you. Working? Okay, great.
There's so much support at Alvernia. You're never gonna feel alone. I really wanted to go to Alvernia, but I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to go there. There's no way they're gonna want me. After talking to a couple of professors and my advisor was like, no, you can do this. You're gonna be fine.
Going to college in a smaller community was a culture shock, but Alvernia's welcoming environment helped me step out of my comfort zone and soar to new heights.
I wasn't the best student at my high school, so Alvernia gave me a chance. I felt their education and the way the teachers were so individualized for the student.
I created relationships that I still have even after I graduated, and we still connect on a weekly basis. My classmates, they supported me 100%, and I also did the same for them, and we became family.
The faculty and staff were very supportive. The students embraced me, which is one thing that I was very happy about. I was the only person from the Bronx going in and everybody embracing me and being nice to me, and the faculty providing me support. That was wonderful.
After earning my bachelor's and my master's degrees, I am now working as an accountant in Chicago. I created my comeback. Create yours.
Thank you all for being here. We're so excited to have you here in person. Welcome to Alvernia and Francis Hall. We are also streaming live all over the country and potentially outside of the country. We sent this out to all of our online students, so what a time to be alive. So we're grateful for you here in person, and we're grateful for you streaming online. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. So on behalf of graduate and adult education, we're so grateful for your time tonight. You'll be hearing from a panel of speakers who we are just so honored to have their time and their wisdom, and a keynote speaker that we are just so grateful for her gracing us with her time as well. So I'm going to start with a mission moment, and if you aren't familiar with Alvernia, we start classes and we start events with a mission moment to kind of tie us back to our mission and why we're here. Our school is really connected to our values, so we like to start everything with a mission moment. So if you don't know me, my name is Allie Blair Snyder. I'm an admissions advisor in grad and adult education. I'm also a two-time alumni and an adjunct professor, so I love Alvernia. And I'm really grateful to be here. I'm grateful to speak with you. I think I'm on maybe my third or fourth comeback here, so the idea of creating a comeback is pretty near to my heart. The first time I created a comeback was after a pretty significant loss in my life. I lost my first son, and in the figuring out of what to do on the other side of that, I learned a lot about human resiliency. And what I know about everyone in this room is that you've experienced some type of loss in your life, and that can be, the loss of a loved one, the loss of something significant in your life, and it can even be, according to human psychology, I know there's some psychologists in the room, it can even be something that derails or shifts your life in a way that you weren't expecting. And all of us went through that with COVID recently, right? So we all know what it's like to have what we thought was going to happen shift significantly. And through that, we are actually, as human beings, hardwired to make a comeback. We are created to build new pathways in our brain. So the idea of create your comeback is actually inside of all of us already, so it's pretty special that we get to tap into that. So when I came back to school, the power of your degree, which is something you're going to hear a couple interpretations of tonight from our speakers. For me, it was about who I became as a person and who I needed to become in order to complete my degree and walk across that stage. And I was taught by actually several professors that are here tonight. So thank you for being here during my master's degree. And now I have them in the doctoral program as well as a PhD student. So Alvernia is a place, if no other place, to create that comeback and to create new pathways in your life. So my mission moment, after all of that, has to do with creating new pathways. So the person that I became on the other side of my master's degree, or actually through the path of my master's degree, is a person who was able to become a mom again. And my second born son was actually born deaf. And I'm learning as he now has cochlear implants and he is hearing for the first time. And he's gone 2 years without receiving sound. And now that he is receiving sound, it doesn't matter that he's gone that time without it. His brain is creating new pathways to receive that sound. So for a lot of our students, it's been a long time since they've been in school sometimes. Or they're disconnected from the academia world and they're coming back, and you might be nervous about that, or you think it's been too long, but you're able to create those new pathways. You're able to kind of reset. Your brain is literally created to create a comeback. So in that, my mission moment, I wanted to teach you how to say, create your comeback in sign language so that you can leave with that. Sign language, as I've been learning, is a really beautiful and direct language. So we can have all kinds of interpretations of create your comeback. So there's really several ways you could say create your comeback in sign language. But when I was sharing with my deaf mentor, she said, well, tell me a little more about this in English so I can figure out how I would sign this in sign language. And I told her about the stories of students coming back. I told her about my story. And she said the interpretation that she would use is build a pathway to start again. Let me tell you the chills that I had thinking and, in that pathway. So Steph is going to come up and hold the microphone because I need 2 hands to show you how to sign this. So you say build a pathway to start, like you're starting a car again. And you can do that so many times. Build a pathway to start again. And I hope, thank you. I hope that you hear many different ways that you're able to do that tonight, and many different paths and opportunities for you are open on the other side of this. So with that, thank you. With that, I would like to welcome up our panel of speakers to join me on stage. Come on up, Wesley, Christina, and Erlen. Oh, they're all over here. Yep. Comfy seats. We love how you're dressed. I'll give that to you, so you guys can share the microphone. So our panel is going to go. We're going to introduce all of our panelists. We're so excited to have you here. And then each of them are going to share a little bit about their own story and their own pathway and their interpretation of the power of your degree. And then we're going to end with something a little special. So Wesley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I knew I sat in the wrong seat. I should have sat over there.
Wow, you're so good.
Hi, my name is Wesley Leanna. I currently work for myriad, which is the first energy company. So my current position is local to Berks County, and that's how I became involved with Alvernia. My story, it took a lot of different roads, so I can really appreciate that. I was a teenage mom. I had my first son at 17, so college at the time was not in the cards for me. I was fortunate enough to get an entry-level position at a really great organization, First Energy, which is where I am now, almost 30 years later. So I started very young, but so I ended up at this organization in an entry-level position, and I felt very grateful at the time because I knew it was a good company, but at the time I didn't know how good of a company it was. And one of the first things that I learned about was their education reimbursement program. And I said, wow, you're going to pay for me to go to college. That's amazing because I didn't think college was in the cards for me at the time. So I remember very clearly reading the description of how to qualify. You had to be there for 6 months. 6 months to the day, I walked in and I had the form filled out, gave it to my supervisor, and I said, please approve this, I want to go back to college. And I did. And it took me a long time. I was raising children, I was working full time. It took me a very long time. It took me close to 8 years to finish. And I remember there were times where I felt like I was never going to finish. And, what I did is every day I just kept going, even though it was hard. See, I get emotional because it is hard.
It's so hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And I remember some days you're just like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're writing a paper, and because that's the only time you could write a paper, and you still had to get up tomorrow and go to work and get your kids ready, etc. So, it was a very proud moment for me that day. I'm sorry.
No apology needed. This is so hard for all of us. And it's, I love that you're not sugarcoating that it's hard. It's possible, but it is hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah, and
it
it's
is hard, but it's
yeah.
so rewarding. And so when I finished college, I had an accounting degree, and I was not working in accounting. But suddenly, there were these doors open for me in the organization I was working in. And now I could go work in the accounting field. And when I got my first position in that area, it was, I was so proud because I knew that had I not obtained that degree and worked really hard, I would never be in the position that I was in. And I found myself doing the budget for, a $400 million plus organization, just that sector of the organization. That was the budget that I was responsible for and doing forecasting, and it really opened a lot of doors for me. I initially started on my master's degree, but then, life got in the way again, and additional doors opened for me in the organization, and I found myself very busy at work. So I put school on the back burner, but it was always something that was, passionate for me, something that I believed in, something I wanted to do. So I did go back 3 times. It took me 3 starts to actually finish, but I did finally finish my master's degree in management and human resources. And, for a very long time now, I've been on the other side of the table where I have been the hiring manager. And I've been the one in positions to really, appreciate when I have a candidate in front of me, and seeing that degree, especially for a non-traditional student or an adult learner, and just really appreciating the sacrifices that they had to go through to get to that position. And, it really does set candidates, sometimes apart from others, because you can appreciate, the sacrifice, the team building, the ability to handle multiple things at once, the ability to handle a full-time career and go to school and sometimes raise children, and it really does, elevate someone when you do see that, and I have a true appreciation for that. And, on the other side of it now, I'm very passionate about bringing those opportunities to the people who work for me and the people in the organization, and letting them know that it is possible. And there will be hard days, but at the end, the rewards, when you walk across the stage, as you said, the rewards are huge.
I love that. Yeah. So good. I love that you mentioned that when someone's sitting across from you and they are an adult student who has gone back, or maybe gone back for their master's at some point, that is actually a positive that you're seeing. And sometimes, actually a lot of the times when we have students coming in, there's a little bit of a hesitation on, I'm too late, I'll be looked down upon, that it took me forever to go back for my degree, it took me this long, or it took me 3 times to finish it. But what we're seeing from hiring managers is that's actually a positive. That's showing resiliency and a determination and the ability to not give up. So thank you for touching on that. One more thing I would love for you to talk about. You are in an extremely male-dominated industry. And we chatted a little bit about the importance of women specifically having their degree in those kinds of industries. Could you talk about that?
Sure, yes. So I'm in operations for a utility company. So on a daily basis, I'm responsible for, ensuring that the electric's on in this building and, all of Berks County. Heavily dominated, a male environment. I spend most days being the only woman in the room. So, when I went into the operations side of the business, and I wanted to pursue a career path in that direction, I did not have the experience of being a craft worker that I could draw from. So I knew that I needed to be able to set myself apart from others that would potentially be candidates for various roles. And for me, the way that I was able to do that was through education and to be able to show my prospective employers at the time that, I know the business side. I know how to run the business, and maybe I've never climbed a pole or I've not turned a wrench in the field. I can add value in these other areas. And, as a hired manager, I think of this all the time. I need a diverse team, and that diversity needs to be an experience as well. And I don't want everyone to have the exact same experience. So while it's important to have, craft experience or electrical experience, it's also important to have someone on your team helping you run the business side, doing the accounting side, the financial side, the business plans, et cetera. So for me, the education was a huge driver for me to be able to set myself apart from other candidates that had experience that there was no possibility of me ever having.
Thank you so much, Wesley.
Yeah.
We've got Erlen. Yep. Before you start, I would love everyone to give Erlen a round of applause and congratulations for being accepted into the PhD program. Just newly accepted yesterday. So we're so excited to have you back and excited to hear why you're back.
Well, thank you so very much. It's very exciting and it's emotional actually to be here, to be back. My higher education academic experience actually begins many years back in a country of Ecuador. I'm originally from go Albernia. No, so I'm like, okay, I'm thinking. So should I go personal? So I want to share something very, very, very personal to me. But anyways, so I studied law when I was in Ecuador. I wanted to become a lawyer. I was in love with the idea of, obeying the law and making sure that the world runs, according to certain laws. And so that's what I thought it was going to be. But as life would have it, while I was studying at the university, I ran into a situation and by the way, the values that I learned through a Catholic university in Ecuador have always been near and dear to me. The idea that to be a good person, honest, good worker, and never ever engage in anything illegal. Well, those values certainly came to be tested a lot sooner than I expected. And I ran into a situation where I was confronted actually by the police. And I was given the option, so either get into the corruption scheme or literally have to leave the country. And here I am. Not without getting a good beating and being threatened that they'll never ever wanted to see me on the streets again. Now, when the entire police tells you to do that, so I was at a situation that I had to make a decision, and I always thought of my values. What was more important to me? And so, of course, I left my homeland and believing in God and trusting in God that things will work for the best, I'm here. And so, of course, when it was time for me to look for another institution, higher education, I immediately thought of Albania. The choice were very clear for me. I had to go back to a Catholic university. Those values, those principles that they instill, and I still have, very dear to me. And so came back and got my bachelor's degree many years ago. And then we went on to get a master's degree while working full-time, while raising a family. And at many points of my life, I had to work at least one other part-time job, to make ends meet. But I always had the thought in my mind that I'm doing this and it's something bigger than me, something bigger than just me getting a degree, my credential. It's a legacy that we'll leave behind for others. And I'm very happy to say that at this point, everyone in my immediate family, my wife, including my wife Tanya, who's here, and who, by the way, is now also enrolled in the program, the PhD program. So all of us have at least master's degrees. And I'm very, very proud of that because education is highly important in my family. Now, I currently work as a commercial lender for Community First Fund in Reading, and so it's a very demanding job. I'm also teaching small business financial literacy classes, actually here at Albernia, in the main campus. And I'm also volunteering at least 2 boards. I'm very active in church, and I do have a family. So I was thinking, so how can I possibly take on one more thing? A little thing
Just one more
like
thing.
a PhD program.
Yeah,
I'll find a couple minutes. So I was thinking, and forgive me if I read, because I wrote something down last night. Just how am I going to do this? So when I was in high school, my senior year, I had the opportunity to participate in track and field, and I loved it. I gave the best, and I ended up winning the decathlon. So I thought, how am I going to possibly do this? And I thought, I'm going to have to be a really multitasker, and by that I mean, and I wrote this down for you. So I'm going to have to draw my experience as a multitasker, and by that I mean my experience when I won a decathlon. And so these are the skills that I think I'm going to need in order to get my PhD among everything else that I do. So the first thing is the 100-meter race, okay? So the 10 events, right? So the first thing, so I'm going to need to have the skills to run the 100-meter dash. So when I literally have to dash from the office to school, and back to the office, and back to school, and home every now and then, right? 110-meter hurdles, because I'm going to have to jump over many, many obstacles that will be put in my way. The pole vault, for when I know that I need to have more than just my own strength in arms and feet in order to clear such a high bar. The high jump, for when I reach so high for my goals that I can only hope to land on my feet. But also, for those of you who know, the throwing the discus. For those times when I get so frustrated that I feel like throwing it all away. Very needed. And finally, the last event in the decathlon is the 1,500-meter race. It is the endurance. It is the long distance race. For the long distance training that I'm going to need, because I need to prepare for the long days and nights that for surely will lie ahead. So, is it going to be easy? I don't think so, but is it going to be worth it? I think it is. So I'm trying to bring the skills, improve myself, my life as a person, to instill to live the principles of Franciscan values, and to bring that to corporate America. It is needed. Leadership, more than ever, as you can see, in a country so divided, we have to agree on something. Honesty can still be that. Leadership can still be that. What can unite us? So I'm here to make myself better, and hopefully make my organization, and maybe even have the opportunity to come back and teach at a local institution. So thank you so much.
Something that you mentioned that I just want to call out is that we see that not only when someone goes back for a higher degree, that impacts their own career, their own earning potential in their life. But we also know through studies and statistics that it also impacts your family directly, and it impacts what your children will do, what they see as possible. And then that also ripples out to your neighbors, your community. So when you're going back for this, individual raise, it can feel really siloed in the process. But what you're touching on is that, your children have seen you do this. Your children have seen you sacrifice. And now they know that it's possible, and their children will know it's possible, and their children. So it's super important to touch on that as well.
It is absolutely important, and my wife and I, because we, like I said, unplanned, we had to come to this country. Our plans changed completely, so we had to adapt. And what we did is we took turns going. One of us go to school at night after work, and the other one would take care of a child. And so we did that, until we eventually graduated. And I think I want to say that our son, was able to see that and appreciate that. And I'm very happy to say he did excellent. He became a straight-A student, ended up going to the University of Pennsylvania with a scholarship. And he now works with one of the Fortune 500 companies. He's a very sought-after engineer. So I want to say that, more than us telling him, go to school, do your best, was seeing that it can be done, no matter what.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And Christina, thank you so much for being here. We're excited to hear your story.
Yes, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I started out as a very traditional student. I came here at 18, right out of high school, ready to learn, excited. I'd never known anyone that was in college. It wasn't something my family did. So, I didn't really know what to expect. I appreciated staying close to home, growing up in Reading, being able to just commute here and not be away from my parents and my brother. But I would say it was traditional for like the first 2 years. We weren't the most well-off family. I had to work, so I was working part-time at first, and then car insurance, living expenses. There was a greater need. My parents did what they could, but they couldn't support me fully and help with school and all that. So I started working full time, and at some points, an additional part-time job while I was finishing my bachelor's degree here. So even though at the time I was 19, 20, I became part of the adult education. That I moved to evening classes. There used to be the once a month Saturday courses. I don't even know if they're still offered here, where we sat there for like 6 hours. It was intense, but it was perfect for me. And while I was working, so not only did it give me the freedom to still get my degree, still earn the money that I needed to live, but I made all these wonderful connections of people who were actually out there doing jobs that I was interested in and in careers that I wanted to pursue, so that we could have better, more fruitful conversations to help set goals. And then again, I never thought of getting my master's degree. It was crazy that I was getting my bachelor's degree, but it was in its infancy here at Alvernia, and they were really marketing it like, hey, try this out, get your master's degree, we'll give you a discount, you can do this, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, cool. It also gives me more time to pay my student loans. So it's like, sign me up.
Heard. Yep.
Yes. So I also should add that I started out as a marketing major. I thought I was going to be this big time ad exec, like in a fancy office in a big city and whatever. Also about a year in, I was like, wow, I do not want to do that. So with all the opportunities that were here at that time, which is nothing compared to what is here now, I was able to add management as a second major and psychology as a minor, because as I took more electives, I became very interested in human resource management and just working with people in general. So I was able to do that as there wasn't an actual HR major. So with the master's program, they're like, hey, we have the MBA and we have an HR concentration for it. So I was like, that's even better. So being able to dive into those topics and learn more. They always say like the higher you go in your education, the less scope you have in what you're learning, because you really get down to the nitty gritty of what your passion is and what you're actually seeking to learn. So again, doing that, being with other adults that were working and going through a lot of the same struggles I was, even if we had an age difference, and being able to complete that degree. I also really took my time with my master's. My bachelor's, I was like, I'm getting done in 4 years. I don't care what the requirements are. I'm out in 4. And I did it, but it was hard. And so my master's was like, no, 2 courses at a time, so I can enjoy what I'm learning, enjoy speaking to my professors, my classmates, and grow. I also lost my job while I was in my MBA program. It was my first job in HR, and my position was eliminated. So a lot of emotions, a lot of things happened, but I think being in the program here and having people to talk to really helped keep me centered and positive about the next step. So fast forward to graduating, had a job in HR and continued to grow. The last 21 years, I've been in some capacity of HR. 11 of those years were spent with Amazon, which I think you guys have heard of. And if you know anything about them, they are they're all about education. You are required to have a degree basically to be in any sort of leadership role or, bare minimum, or you have to be there for so long and work your way up, which, can take a long time. So not only did my bachelor's get me in the door, but when I saw that I made the commitment and did the MBA, they would look at my resume and be like, oh, yeah, oh, you got your MBA. And I do think that helped me move up through Amazon. In the 11 years, I was trying to count while I was waiting for my turn. I think it was like 9 different roles. Some were lateral moves, many promotions, and being able to accomplish a lot, travel the country for them, opening new buildings, working with multiple levels of executives in the company as I went through those roles. And it was a tremendous experience. I'm no longer there. I've been with American Eagle now for the last year. But again, I think just the experience that I was able to gain in my career because of my education, formal and the informal of being here, is what helped me land American Eagle on my last day at Amazon. It was perfect timing, and I couldn't be happier. I love what I'm doing and where I am. Oh, and I also wanted to add that I also benefited from First Energy's tuition reimbursement. I worked there at the end of my bachelor's degree and the beginning of my master's. It's a fantastic program. I was very grateful for it. I was in the call center, so that is also amazing. And American Eagle has a great program too. So if you want a job, come work for me. I have some openings. But
There's networking at the end if you want to
yes,
snag your seat.
yes, especially maintenance. If you're into maintenance, like that's the hard one, or supervisors. So when I see someone going back to school similar to what was shared, I know the dedication and the time, and being a human resource leader, I always want to encourage my employees, if they want to go back, I sell our tuition reimbursement program really hard. And even if something has absolutely nothing to do with American Eagle or clothing or our distribution, I don't care. It's not about me holding on to everyone, even though I try. I want them to be happy and fruitful. And if that's, something completely outside of what we do, but I can help them get there, I'm going to be supportive in any way I can. And again, that just comes back from being a traditional, non-traditional student here at Alvernia and learning and growing.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much for touching on that. I think something that was important that you mentioned right at the end there is a lot of what you said was important, but something I caught is I would say maybe 99% of our students have a job and have all extra responsibilities. Like, it is very rare we have someone who is only in school. So it's a holistic view when you come back to school at Alvernia, because we know this. We know you have a job. We know you have a family. We know you have all of these commitments. And we've created partnerships with actually all of their employers that are sitting up here today for that reason, to give you a discount, which is awesome. We want to remove barriers where we can. but also create that connection of, we know you have a whole life, and our professors and our programs are built around that fact that you have a whole life. We are connected with your employers, your employers are connected with us, you are surrounded by the support, surrounded by all of this. So thank you for all of you actually touched on that, so thank you for that. So one more piece from each of you. If you can go this way if you want. You have to go first. We're just going to ask you for one piece of advice that you would give someone looking to come back to school in any sense for the students that are here and also the students all over the country who are streaming in. I think it's very cool. Yeah.
So my biggest thing is, if you have a passion or a desire for something, just go for it. Like I was saying earlier in the lobby, I just love to learn. And I personally want to go back to school for employment law, not necessarily, law school, but just to learn more. So I'm waiting for Albernia to add that, so let's do that. But if, just learning and growing, and it can be so scary and so terrifying, but taking the jump is so worth it. Like, I know I would not be where I am today if I hadn't made that jump to do the master's and, continue my growth personally and professionally through here, and how it's benefited me over the last 20 years. So, there's a great support system here. Hopefully you have friends and family in your lives that are also as supportive, that you can do it. And if you have to take one course at a time, it doesn't matter. You're still making progress and moving towards your goal, so just jump.
Absolutely. I think, and I'm going to give you a piece of advice that is not actually mine, but I heard it from one of the professors at Alberta University. So many years ago, he said, because, like you said, adult education, students at night they're coming from work. And he said, I've heard so many workers, so many professionals said, you know what, I don't want to go to school at night. It's going to take me, it should take 4 years. It's probably going to take me 8 or whatever. He said, my answer to them is always, well, the 8 years are going to go by anyway, right? The 4 years are going to go by anyway. Might as well, at the end of those 4 years, find you with a degree. That always stuck with me, right? Talking about the tuition reimbursement, I absolutely recommend everyone to look into that. I know I benefited from that. At one point, I was working for a Fortune 100 company here in Berks County, VF Corporation, and I was the only person taking advantage of that out of 250 people. Because some people, they say, yeah, they're going to pay for me, but are they going to do my work? And I was like, come on, you got to do something, right?
That's a great point. Where I am now at American Eagle, I've been working with our benefits director with our tuition reimbursement and trying to make some enhancements. Company-wide, we have over 30 participants last year. That's all of our stores, our distribution, our corporate. So that's why I'm pushing and selling. We become a salesman for it because we know how to work.
Exactly. They see there's a lot of work, so they see that part, but they don't do the work so they can see the other one. That's going to open so many doors. Like I said, I wouldn't, be here sitting with you because I went through many companies. Thanks to the education that opened so many doors. So my best piece of advice is do it. The time is going to go by anyways. Look for those, tuition reimbursement opportunities, and you just might be able to get your education paid for. Thank you.
So this time I wish I went first because my advice is similar. And I don't know if we have the same professor, but I remember I was in the master's program and I was feeling old. And I was looking around the room at the time and I felt like I was the oldest person there. And I said to one of my professors, why am I doing this? I'm going to be 45 years old when I graduate. And he said, you're going to be 45 years old whether you graduate or not. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. So very, very similar advice, and I've shared that with a lot of people. The other thing that I think that, especially as a parent, one thing that we don't do often is we don't invest in ourselves. And that's the other piece of advice that I give to especially adult learners. Take some time to invest in yourself. And the rewards are not just personal, as we've talked about. They do cascade to your children, to your children's children, to your neighbors, to your coworkers. So when others see that you can do it, they want to come along with you and do it as well. So it can be done, and if you have a desire, you should do it.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Wow, what an honor to have all of you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I love that our alumni just love being here. You come to Alvernia, you're family. So speaking of an alumni, someone we consider family, and one of our very esteemed partners, Lucine Sahonik, has agreed to come speak with us tonight, and we're so honored to have her. She's been part of Alvernia for a while, and we're excited to, I don't want to take away from what she's going to share, but we are grateful to have her, and she is actually newly appointed the president and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, which is one of our partners as well. So Lucine, if you'd like to come up, we're so grateful to have you. Thank you.
I was going to give you a hug, but thank you. That's really what it's all about right there. Well, I'm very inspired by all of you for making the time to be here tonight, because I think that's the first step. So a round of applause to yourselves for making yourself here, making that time. That's really what it comes to, when you're creating your comeback. And I do want to take a moment to recognize that it is Women's History Month, and that we would not be standing here if it weren't for our Bernadine sisters who founded this institution. And I have come into a new role, and that is the president and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. I'm incredibly honored to be doing that as well as the first female president. And echoing that in accolades is to Dr. Glennis Fitzgerald, who is the esteemed president, female president of this university. So I'm just feeling that right now, and I think it's phenomenal. When we talk about creating your comeback, and the power behind what you do, I really think that it comes from a place of purpose. And purpose is what I've identified with, even though I am a public school graduate. So for all of you who went to public school, I identify with you there. But my continuing my education has been one with institutions, with my undergraduate degree at Loyola University in Baltimore, Maryland, and then following suit here at Alvernia. In mission-based universities that have values that I can identify with. And it really has helped me then be able to connect with walking through life that has been put in front of me and recognizing that it's okay to use the purposefulness that I have in my heart to drive me towards what it is that I think I'm supposed to be doing. And I still don't even really know. I love this new job. I love the people that I get to work with. Missy is here tonight, so thank you for coming tonight. And we hope that you will create your comeback too. Amazing team and amazing people, but at some point you realize this is bigger than you. This is beyond you, right? You really are kind of one person who is affecting and being part of the greater good around you. And so when my comeback really started, it was in a way that I had moved back to Berks County. I had finished my bachelor's degree. I too was uncertain about what to do, but I was a very traditional student. And I was debt-free. So I had the gift of being very privileged to go and receive my undergraduate's degree without any debt. And so I said, I'm going to become a lawyer. No, I'm going to become a teacher. I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm going to do all these good things. I'm trying to find my purpose. I enrolled in a master's program in education at Towson University in Baltimore. And I was teaching there in the Baltimore public school system. And had many challenges, things that I was not accustomed to. And realized quickly that education wasn't really the route that I wanted to go. I didn't feel it. I didn't have that gut feeling, right? So I thought, all right, let me wait on this and let me think about what it is that I really want to do. And that was yoga. And imagine telling your parents after all of that, I want to do yoga. I want to teach yoga. and they thought, she's going through a crisis, we need to get her some help. But it really wasn't, because that was the purpose of what I needed to do and go through a 200-hour training program to really begin to trust myself and understand body, mind, and spirit, that strong connection of, okay, I'm gonna keep going and moving forward in this life, whatever it has for me. And I need to trust in that process and believe in something bigger than me and just take every step with purpose. So I kept going. And when I moved back to Berks County, I landed an awesome job at the Reading Hospital. Really great place to work, one of the largest employers in Berks County, and I think I had like the coolest job. I was the assistant director of volunteer services. I got to work with volunteers from myriads of the Friends of the Reading Hospital, which is a board who contributes in many different facets to enhance the mission of the hospital. They do events like the Road Run, golf tournament, and all of their proceeds go to serving physicians and their families and patients in the process of how they enter into the healthcare system. I also got to work with a great team and an environment. I could have stayed at the Reading Hospital for the rest of my life. There was no need for me to go. There was a pension. I had a great salary. They had tuition reimbursement. And I felt like I knew everybody there, right? So I started and enrolled in my master's degree at Alvernia, and I was searching for the right one. And I have very pragmatic parents, and they're like, well, you need your MBA, because that's what's gonna get you through life. Since you're not gonna be a doctor and you're not gonna be a lawyer, then at least go for your MBA so you can get a good job. And it wasn't hitting with me. I knew that I wanted to continue to learn, but the MBA program wasn't quite the right fit. And lo and behold, Alvernia had a program called the Master of Arts in Liberal Studies, or MALS, or Masters in Leadership. It's had a couple of iterations, but it was the one for me, because when I sat down and I looked through the curriculum and I started to meet my professors, like Dr. Sproul is here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I got it. It made sense to me. Right? And it was fueling that fire of purpose for me to keep going and doing what I was doing. Now, I did take a lot of MBA elective classes, but I loved my sociology classes. I love my classes on sustainability. And it really kind of started to shape who I was authentically and what I wanted to do for the community around me. Because like I said, when you create your comeback, you discover your purpose and you realize it's definitely much bigger than you. But to my yoga teachings, don't forget about you, right? So if you're not the best version of yourself, then you really can't move forward and do anything further. So I thought I was gonna stay at the hospital. They would pay for the rest of my education. I'd come out with a master's degree, and I don't know, I didn't know what to go from there. And while I was doing my capstone project, I had this idea in my head. What if I created a community organization? What if I moved out into the bucolic fields of Upper Burn Township and I started cultivating a garden and creating a center where people could come and children could come and we could grow food? And now my parents went back to, she's like losing it again, right? She's going back to the hippie days of, you know. But I was like, no, there's something here. There's something here. Let me just find it. I want to cultivate that purpose of connecting with my community and really discovering what it is. So I left my job at the hospital while I was still in my program. And remember, they were paying for it. So I was able to get a job here as a GA, and it was in the career development program. So now maybe it's starting to make sense in terms of like, why am I standing here as the president and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance? Tell me at the end of this if it makes sense to you. So I took that position, I finished my degree, and at that point, I was a non-traditional student. I had gone from being very traditional to working full-time, not having a job, trying to, you know, everything that a lot of people were speaking to and identifying with, taking those Saturday classes, I took those, like hours, it's great. So making connections, building another family around me, you know, my community. And so I was able to do that, and I was able to move forward with the courage and the confidence to kind of take those next steps. And that just started slowly leading me into the direction of the purpose that was driving me forward. I recognized that the community was really important to me. And I recognized that using the pillars of sustainability was really significant. So when I could talk about what was important to me and talk about a triple bottom line. So yes, I want to be in the industry and I want to make good decisions and have sound business practice, but it's not just the financial bottom line that matters. Are we talking about the environment around us? Are we talking about the community and the people? Because when all of those things together, we're thriving. That's a hard conversation to have in the corporate world. But I was able to do it, and I started taking on contracts to exactly do that, to have conversations. And it led me to being able to take a contract with the Reading Hospital, which I had left, remember? And then they hired me back to help them work on certain projects around sustainability, around the community building. There was a lot of support in nonprofits that needed help. A lot of grant discovery, research, writing, project management. These were all skills that I had learned through my program at Alvernia, right? And so it was coming to fruition, and I wrote a white paper for the greenhouse in the city of Reading. And it was kind of like, what are we gonna do with this? And that led me to be hired. And I remember, sorry I keep pointing to you, Dr. Sprout, but she's really been there. She's still here tonight. She's been there in the long run. I said, am I making the right decisions? And I'm leaving these jobs and I'm taking these risks. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. Just keep doing it, right? And so I kept going, and I was hired for a community development corporation. And the first year I was hired was called Redesign Reading. Trying to really cultivate change for the city of Reading and focusing on community development. So again, speaking to how do we identify with our community around us, and how do we create change that's equitable, that's really serving our purpose, that's meeting the basic needs of people and people we see all around us, all of us. What do we need every day? How do we do that in a community that might be a little fractured, it might be a little broken, it might be a little dusty, right? And then all of the investors and the board members of that organization pulled back. And all the financing to support it fell apart. And I can't tell you how many times I haven't gotten the job that I wanted. I have not gotten the contracts that I was counting on to keep things going. I have heard no more than I've heard yes. But what it's done is made that yes so much more meaningful and powerful for me, because I knew that it was a sense of purpose that was driving me through my comeback. And you can't just have one comeback. You might have comebacks over and over and over again. I heard that earlier. So don't think this is just the one. This is going to be it. Because once you get into it, you realize you're really doing that comeback. You're reinventing yourself. You're moving forward in what life has to offer for you as many times as it needs to happen, as you allow it to do it. And there's growth every time that it happens. And so somehow in this mess of my life that I think is successful, I decided to go into the realm of public service. I think it was really my way of maybe thinking I'm gonna get into heaven one day, right? So if I go into public service and I serve on city council, then I've earned that mark, right? And so I did. I was 7 months pregnant, and I ran for a city council. We live in the city of Reading, and for District 1, which is where I live, and I won. And then I was sworn in, and then I went out on maternity leave. And the first piece of legislation that I wrote was for MLA or FMLA for elected officials, because it didn't exist. So based on the charter, if you as an elected official miss 3 consecutive meetings, the rest of your board could vote you out. And that's it. Doesn't matter if you broke a hip, you had a heart transplant, you had a baby, you missed 3 meetings, you're gone. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. These people are basically volunteering to do this work. After 2 years, they started to see that I had skill sets that they hadn't imagined that I would bring to the table so young. I was very young, sitting around the table with city council. And I think it was because of what I had learned through my master's degree program here. They said, you should be vice president of city council. I said, I have an infant, I'm not sleeping at night. And you want me to become a vice president? I can't do that. And they said, please think about it. And they forced me into it. So there's a instance of something I didn't want to do that I ended up doing. And I think I've seen a lot of people nod their heads. So maybe you've experienced that too. And then after my term, I said, I'm not going to run again. And it really shocked a lot of people because they thought I was being groomed. I was being groomed to run for council president. And then one day I was going to run to be the mayor of the city of Reading. And here we go. And I thought, wait, that's not my purpose. That's not what I want to do. And people were shocked. People actually stopped talking to me. They thought that I had taken my ball and gone home and I didn't want to play anymore. But that wasn't the case. I just knew that that wasn't the path. And so during that time, COVID was happening. I lost my second child that I was expecting, a really painful experience. I lost family members, as most of us did. I decided not to run and to take a step back. And it was the biggest blessing that I could imagine. Doesn't sound like a blessing, does it? It kind of sounds like it was a horrible time in my life, but it wasn't. And I started talking to my husband, and together we healed through the process, and we understood that our family was perfect exactly the way that it was. And again, what is the next thing that we should do? We'd been focusing on community and economic development most of the 15 years that I'd been working hard. And my husband, quick fun fact, is the son of 2 Greek immigrants. His father was an ice cream man in the city of Reading in the Northeast District for 30 years. He drove an ice cream truck. And a lot of people in that area to this day still tell us, because we've lost both of my in-laws, they say, your dad was like our father. We heard the bell, we knew he was watching us, and our parents knew that he was also looking after us, right? So talk about somebody who has a really strong community presence. So in this discussions of COVID conversations, I think we all had them, right? We were like all together day and night, we couldn't leave, we had to be with the people we were with. We came up with an idea and we called it our passion project. And we said, we have a little bit of money, what could we possibly do? We opened up an ice cream shop. Was that the first thing that came to your mind? Like, oh, let's think. She decided to sponsor a campaign to run for something. No, we decided to open an ice cream shop in the heart of downtown Reading, and it is called the Great American Creamery. The reason I agreed to do this, because it was a crazy thought. It's not because I love ice cream. I mean, it's good. It's really good. And it's gotten me through a lot of hard times in my life. But it was a combination of what was a passion for the two of us. And it's something we wanted to do together. And it checked my boxes of purpose. It demonstrated that I was so committed, where everybody thought I had taken my ball and gone home, I went and I took my money and invested it entrepreneurially into what I thought was going to make a difference, creating something that was family-friendly in downtown Reading, somewhere where I could bring my family and enjoy the city that I call home. Something that most people, unless you're severely lactose intolerant or a vegan, love, right? So it speaks to everybody. And it just became a place, holding a place and a space for encouragement and revitalization in which I believe our city will grow towards becoming the best version of itself. And we all have to try to make it work towards that and encourage and nurture that. That's a deeper sense of purpose that is my comeback, and I'm still working towards it. So subsequently, in that process, a position opened up in the county, and it was to be a county commissioner. And a lot of people called me, and I said, no, no, no. Why would I do that? No, I'm never going to be a commissioner. And then I got the job. So again, it was quite a scary process to sit in front of the president, judge, and all of the judges, the Court of Common Pleas in the courthouse building, and go through a series of interviews where it was really an interrogation. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to choose you. Will you accept the job? And I said, yes. So then last year, I was a county commissioner for 1 year. And it was an amazing experience. Not anything that I had considered. Never. And from that, I started thinking, what's the next thing? So my son is now 6, thriving in his own best self. He graduated from Berks Nature Preschool, loved it. And he's kind of off on his way. My husband is running the ice cream shop. Subsequently, when I got this job, he fired me. So I no longer work at the creamery. Don't go there, I'm not there. I have to pay for ice cream. But in that process, I started to think about what could I do that's bigger than greater? What is the work that I've really been doing for the past 20 years and not really acknowledging? And it's community and economic development. How can I do this with purpose that's driven me this far, that will let and allow me to really be beyond myself and continue to be in this community that Alvernia has created for me? It was a gift to be able to come and live and work and learn and play in what I call home. And that's exactly what you have the opportunity to do as well. So I hope that as you come here, you've taken the hardest first step. Maybe you've taken the step a couple of times and you need a little bit more nudging to get where you want to go. But that's where everybody's here prepared to talk to you about how and why to remove those hurdles. That was an amazing example of the hurdles and the pole vaulting, and I feel you on that one. To make your purpose come true, right? To find that strength that you need because we're stronger together. And so I will end my time just being immensely honored to be with you here today. Honored to serve as a trustee of this university, again, which I said no the first couple times they asked me because I was so scared. And standing in my role as the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, let me tell you, I've heard a lot, and my story is that where I worked helped subsidize my education. But for those of you who that might not be the case, if you can convince your employers to become members at our organization, we can offer a tuition discount. And that's one of the coolest things that I think exist out there, because not every employer will have a robust program where they can pay for your entire degree or education. So know that there's opportunity out there. Know that we are all in this together, standing together on this journey. Find your purpose through your comeback program. And in the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, I've learned we have a tagline, and that is that we are greater together. So I wish you success. Thank you for giving me this time to speak to you, and thank you, Allie and Gaten, for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Wow, what an amazing story. Thank you, Lucine. And what an honor to hear a path of comeback after comeback after comeback. So I love that. That's something I'm taking with me, that it's certainly not ever just one comeback. It can be several. And what a gift to be able to do that in this lifetime. So we have one more speaker for you, and I'm really excited to introduce my boss, Gaten, but we're gonna play a video for you first to kind of illustrate what Gaten is gonna come up and chat with us about.
Hello, my name is Joelle Brett.
My name is Andre Gina Mister.
Hi, my name is Nicole Reeser-Meeser.
My name is Reverend George Jose Ababia.
My name is Linda Hardison.
My name is Tony Delvat, and I wanted to share with you my comeback story.
I started my journey over 25 years ago as a 20-something with an associate's degree in early childhood education.
However, none of these challenges stopped me from continuing to pursue my education. I remain a resilient woman.
I told myself, I'm going to get this done. I take pride in having high standards for myself and being accountable for not giving up.
We are grateful to the staff and faculty of Alvernia University for their immense support throughout my educational journey.
The therapeutic process has been so helpful for me, and somewhere along the line I realized this is what I want to do.
And at school, you guys are just, they're making this comeback very much possible. And it's something they can actually finish that started 21 years ago. And it's a great feeling.
Those are all, or not all, but some of our new Create Your Comeback Award recipients. So we're excited to talk about that. And Keaton, please join us up on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Those people up there on that short video, they told a very brief story of their own comebacks. And they are obviously alums of our program. Around this time last year, when colleges and universities get toward graduation, we have a lot of ceremonies, we do a lot of things. And we hand out a bunch of awards. And we were seeing a lot of our really excellent traditional age students get awards for different accomplishments that they had done during their time here at Alvernia. And we in the graduate and adult division started saying, well, you know, we've got some amazing people that have done some amazing things. You heard them speak about those things tonight. And we thought that really was something that needed to be recognized. So, as a part of our comeback campaign, our signature reason for coming back, the organizing philosophy around graduate and adult at Alvernia, we wanted to have some awards. So those people there are going to be our first annual group of people getting the Alvernia Graduate and Adult Comeback Award. People who did some really amazing things that we want to recognize them. Now, these people aren't special. Well, they are special, but they aren't any more special than anybody sitting in this room tonight. They all decided they needed to make a comeback. And they're there not to be recognized as standouts, but be exemplars for anybody who wants to take that next step. That's what it's designed for, and we're delighted to do that. And we'd love to see some of you be in that position and share your comeback someday. Now, what I usually like to do when I'm in front of a group like this is congratulate you on making a great decision. And that decision is continuing your education. Whether it's getting a bachelor's degree or coming back for a master's or doctorate, it makes a difference in your life. And I'm going to talk about money. I think I'm the first person to do it this evening. When you get a college degree, you actually increase your lifetime income. I think the number now is about $1.4 million over your lifetime. If you're going to a graduate degree, it's even more than that. But it is, as you've heard these stories, about more than just money. It's about a life experience. The students that come to Alvernia to study, the adult and graduate students, are career starters, they're career changers, they're people who are upwardly mobile in their career. But there's a common thread amongst them all. You heard our panelists talk about it tonight. You heard Lucine talk about it tonight. I was speaking to a bunch of you out in the mixer before we came into this room, and everybody I talked to said some form of life happens. And when life happens, and it's time for you to make your comeback, do you want to be a number, or do you want to be part of a family who's going to be there to support you? I think you've seen that tonight. We're not talking about the money that you can make, although you're going to get a world-class education, and you're going to be able to advance your financial security in the process. But this group of people, the people that are here to help and support you and get you through admissions, the fantastic faculty who are here tonight, this is on their time. They're here to do that. They're going to be here for you for that entire journey. And that is something that is really, really important. And I want you to take that away. If you are here in person, or if you are watching this live stream, you get the same support, whether you're an online student or you're an in-person student. You get that same personal touch. We design our programs to make sure that is what is going to happen. So I'm here to encourage you to make your own comeback. It's time. And as Lucine pointed out, and I think we've got to work this into our talking points, you're going to continue to make comebacks. And Alvernia is going to continue to be here for you over 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, for however long you're there. So again, I want to thank you for coming out tonight, for considering making your comeback and becoming part of the Alvernia family. I'm going to tell one quick story about Lucine since it went into my mind. and how it helped me in my own comeback. In my first week here, I was having lunch with Dr. Darrell Mace, our Vice President for Mission and Ministry. And I'd met hundreds of people. It's a new job. It's exciting. I'm a little nervous. And we're sitting in a restaurant, and somebody walks up to our table, and it's Lucine. And I met you in passing at I don't know if it was a trustees meeting or what have you. I'd met 1,000 people. And Lucine introduced herself and made me feel comfortable. I got an Alvernia hug for the first time. And it's something that has continued in my time here. And I hope this is your first Alvernia hug as you sit here and meet everybody. So that is concluding our program tonight. I thank you all for coming out. I want to thank the GAE team, especially Allie, for organizing this. These events are fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you to our faculty for coming out, our photographers, our videographers. We couldn't do it without all of you, and I invite you to join our team. We're keeping the bar open for another half hour. We're hoping some of the faculty will continue to join us for the next half hour. Join us for a little while. Network. You get part of our network when you're a student here, and this is just a small example of that. So enjoy the rest of the evening. Make some connections from people you haven't talked to. Talk to some professors, and we'd love to see you back here at Alvernia. Thank you, and have a great night.